How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to the Back Pocket Podcast. I'm Dylan Shalom, and I'm here with Charlie Nidell, and we're back for the 2024-25 NFL season Bust or Boom series. We're going to switch over divisions to the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC North. Usually we go kind of chronologically. We wanted to switch it up for you guys. Minnesota, a team that did not make the playoffs last season off of a Kirk Cousins injury that kind of riddled the rest of their year. But this season, they're looking up a lot of big moves in free agency that we're going to cover, new quarterback in the draft that we're going to cover, and then we're going to cover their schedule and their weaknesses and strengths as a whole.
The keys to the Viking season, I mean, the number one key is quarterback. And I think, obviously that's the number one key for most teams because quarterback is the most important position on the field. But the Vikings more so than a lot of teams because you're looking at a team, their quarterback room is very interesting. I think right now Sam Darnold is probably projected to come out the gates in week one and be their starter.
Would you say that?
But
I don't
I
know.
I would because I think that JJ McCarthy needs time.
I don't think so because
I
he played in an NFL
I
style offense. I don't think he needs
I
time.
think he is drafted in the anticipation that he's not necessarily going to step out the gates week one just because he's so young. He's
Yeah.
just not a super experienced quarterback.
But
And to step into the
at this
Vikings
point, though, I
offense,
don't know because Sam Darnold is not someone that I would trust the keys to a team that has 10 wins written on them. And JJ McCarthy, probably not that far in a difference in level from Sam Darnold currently, and then give them training camps together. I would definitely start JJ week one.
look, I agree with you. I think if I were the Vikings, I think I'd probably rather start JJ because Sam Darnold is not some potential project. We've seen it before. Like Sam Darnold's not the guy for anybody, where JJ could be. I just struggle because Darnold has looked okay at times. Not that he's the guy for any franchise, but if they want to come out in the first few weeks and win football games, I don't know exactly who they play in the first few weeks, but I'm assuming a couple divisional matches. Those will be tough games. Um, I think he gives you a better chance at winning in the first few weeks. They've got weapons in Addison and Jefferson and Aaron Jones and Hawkinson with a good offensive line. It's a great team for JJ McCarthy to step into, but as such a young quarterback, it's also such a hard situation to step into.
So let's look at what the Vikings
So I
have
think
to
we'll have to
start the
see.
year. The Vikings start off the year, they play at New York for the Giants. They play at home against the Niners. In They're at home against the Texans, then they're at Green Bay, and then they play in Europe against the Jets. That's their first 5 games of the season. Do you think Darnold gives them a better chance
So
than McCarthy in
the
those games?
the way I'm looking at it is um the not putting the Giants in some top tier, but defensively, one of the best defensive units in the league, and if not, I mean, probably the best defensive line in the league. Um, with Thibodeau and Burns and Lawrence, it's going to be next to impossible for any quarterback to get rid of a ball.
But I
Let
would say that
alone a
JJ
21
McCarthy has
year
a
old rookie.
I would say JJ McCarthy has a better understanding of a pocket and a better release than definitely Darnold. Darnold's biggest problem is holding onto the ball so long.
No, no, no. While it may be true that McCarthy is a better, has a better pocket presence or is a better quick release quarterback, we just see rookie quarterbacks come into the league and struggle with pressure because they're seeing pressure that they haven't necessarily seen in college, especially with the brilliant defensive minds that you just don't get at the college level. Um, it's going to be so difficult for him to immediately step in. He plays one of the best defensive line in the Giants and then one of the best defensive lines in the Niners. And then he's going to get outplayed by CJ Stroud and the Texans, and he's going to get outplayed by Jordan Love and the Packers. So I think you have him step into the team, and you're saying like, no matter who's at quarterback, it's tough first 4 weeks. There could be a couple wins in there. I'm not saying the Giants is a guaranteed loss, and I'm not saying the Texans are a guaranteed loss. I'm not even saying the Packers are a guaranteed loss. But with Sam Darnold at quarterback or JJ McCarthy at quarterback, I don't think it makes a huge difference.
And that's exactly why you
So
have to
I
start
think
JJ
that
McCarthy, though. That's why, like, why would you not throw him into the fire and give him the
because
rep that he needs?
Because I think throwing him into the fire, this is a quarterback who does not lose ever. Like he went undefeated last season with Michigan. I think throwing him in and having him go 0-4, potentially 0-5 against the Jets, another great defensive unit, that's just demoralizing.
Yeah, of course it's
And it's a team
demoralizing,
that's
but
going into the season with such high expectations that I think Sam Darnold, while it's not a huge difference, gives them a better chance that they're saying, even if we are 1-4 through 5 weeks, we know we can go to JJ now. Instead of saying we're 1-4 through the first 5 weeks, JJ's not playing very well. What do we do?
that's a
I
fair
feel like giving him his
that's
first
the best
chance
argument. That's the
against
best argument.
five great defenses is going to be so difficult.
No, that's the best argument that you can make because there is a lot of truth to that. That if you're not going to sit JJ if you start him week 1 because that's where you really demoralize.
No, yeah. Oh no, if he plays week one, he's not sitting for the rest of the season, or for
I
the next
totally
two
agree.
seasons.
And that's the best argument you can make. But I just think playing JJ, I think he's a better quarterback than Sam Darnold right now.
Agreed.
It gives you a better chance to win games, and it's so crucial to give him that big game experience because those games don't really come in like when you have weak teams in the middle of the year. That's sure it's your time to build up stats, build up confidence, but the big games at the end of the year, those are the games that matter. And you have to give him that experience, even if it is at the start of the year against a good team. That a divisional game against the Packers, I feel like that's a game you have to give JJ McCarthy early.
No, I mean it's not a bad idea. It's just, I mean, looking at their schedule, like you have those first 5 games, that those are really tough 5 games, and then they go into a bye week, and that's their chance to evaluate, right? They
No,
sit.
it's not a bye week.
Yeah, it is.
It is a bye
It's
week.
a week 6 bye week.
Week
It's a
six
week
bye.
6 bye. So you say after the first 5 weeks, no matter what you do, so right, if I think that if you go with McCarthy in week one, you're basically saying we're locking in, we're saying McCarthy for the next 34 games, right? You're saying we're giving him this season, we're giving him next season, and then we evaluate.
When you
But if you go
draft a
with
quarterback
Darnold,
that high, that's what you do, though. That's what you
but
do when you
but I
draft a
think it.
quarterback in the
I mean,
first round.
and also all of this pivots on preseason and training camp
Yeah, of
because
course.
if McCarthy doesn't look great in training camps and doesn't look great in preseason, they won't start him. But if Darnold doesn't look great in McCarthy, they think he's ready. Then McCarthy's absolutely the right decision. I prefer McCarthy to Darnold. That's not what I'm saying. I just think it's tough. I think that rookie quarterbacks a lot of time they do need to be thrown in the fire, but not when they're probably going to go 0-5. It's just a really tough spot to put them in. And then they say, look, we're, God forbid, they're 0-5 going into their bye week. And they're like, God damn, JJ's got 3 touchdowns and 8 interceptions through 5 games. Is this not the quarterback we were looking for? And it just doesn't give him a fair chance. And we've seen that happen before with like Josh Rosen, or not saying that he's a guy who has the talent of JJ, but like we've seen it happen before where quarterbacks are not given a fair chance. And those 5 teams don't give him a fair chance.
No, that's understandable, and I hear that, and that's more of a futuristic standpoint to look at it from. Like, how will this affect him in the long run as compared to we want to win these football games? So, I'm interested to hear what you think the rest of the team gives either Darnold or McCarthy. Let's run through their offense real quick. Aaron Jones in at running back.
Unbelievable
I
offense.
think is one of the best moves of the offseason. I've been a huge Aaron Jones supporter from the day that we've started doing this. He's one of
It
the
also just fits their offense
yeah,
well.
he's one of the 10 best backs in the league. Then you look at the receiver core and you have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. They lost KJ Osborne. Who's in as the 3 for them this year? Is that going to be Powell?
Uh, Looking like Brandon Powell,
Yeah.
and I mean, I guess they have guys like Trent Sherfield, but
Yeah.
there's no guaranteed three. It'll be whoever. I mean, I guess Jordan Addison plays enough snaps in the slot
Yeah.
that it's not a big deal, but
But then
with
there's
those two
Hopkins
guys
at tight
plus
end.
Hawkinson,
And the offensive line looked great last year towards the end. They were really weak for some time, but then at the end, and Darisaw was really, really good. O'Neal was really good. There's some really good pieces to this Vikings offensive line. And I think overall, the construction of the offense is built very, very well for JJ McCarthy specifically,
agreed.
because Kevin O'Connell is the type of quarterback guru that will have a quick firing quarterback hitting his spots. It's going to be kind of more similar to a West Coast San Francisco style offense than what we've seen with Kirk Cousins. Because Kirk Cousins, although he's not the biggest arm, that is what they kind of use him for, as someone that can make a play in gaps against cover two, where he can throw a ball in the middle of the field with zip and with power. I think JJ McCarthy is going to be more of a short yardage playing quarterback, but also he will be mobile. I will expect to see some runs from JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, I think the offense is constructed so well because you also look at the running back depth. It's not just Aaron Jones. They've got Ty Chandler, who is now in his going to his
Yeah,
second year.
he was
Um,
great when he played last year.
you've got Miles Gaskin even as a receiving back. I know that's not a name we've heard in a little while, but that's the kind of guy who could make an impact for a quarterback like JJ McCarthy out of the backfield in the passing game. I know he was a Dolphin, Dylan.
I remember.
But I think the offensive construction is really good because they also brought in Robert Tonyan, they have Josh Oliver, they have tight ends galore, um, weapons for JJ. Um, offensive line, you said it looks good. My primary concern is, look, most teams have a deep ball. Where does JJ's deep ball come into play? Because you're looking at a receiving core with TJ Hawkinson, who is a short yardage tight end who has great hands, super reliable, and can go up and make catches in one-on-one coverage, even God forbid in two-on-one coverage, but 20 plus yards down the field. Justin Jefferson, who can do everything. I'm not even going to say he can't because he's the best receiver in the game. Um, and Jordan Addison Jordan Addison for me is the one that I'm not sure where he's going to fit in this offense this year because this is not the best short yardage receiver in Jordan Addison. This is a guy who last season led the league in touchdown receptions,
He was, I think,
most of
second
which
at the
were
end of
on
the year.
deep balls. Um, Jordan Addison's a guy who is going to run posts and he's going to run corner routes and he's going to run go routes, but not a lot more. He was a guy who did not get a lot of receptions last year, but turned those receptions into big plays. I don't know where JJ McCarthy fits into that equation because obviously, no matter who you put at quarterback, Justin Jefferson is going to shine and TJ Hawkinson is going to be TJ Hawkinson. Jordan Addison is the one that worries me because we saw so much promise from him last year. And when you look at Jefferson and Addison, I think they need a deep ball uh, uh, because they're just not going to be able to expose defense the same way. And it's a huge downgrade, no matter how you look at it, from Kirk Cousins to whoever they go to in week one. Because Kirk, aside from being truly just a better quarterback than JJ McCarthy or Sam Darnold, had so many clutch moments over the last few seasons with the Vikings that it's hard to replicate that with a rookie quarterback. And I think there's going to be an overall decrease in production from that offense just because I don't know what we're going to see from that quarterback position.
Yeah, so
But
overall,
they are giving it everything that they can to
yeah.
help that quarterback.
So overall, as an offense, where do you expect them to stack up within their own division? Because this is a division with phenomenal offenses. And
This is the third best offense in the division.
behind who?
This 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 offense, I mean, this does not touch the Lions.
Yeah.
The Lions, for me, are far and away the best offense in this division with Goff and with, I mean, one of the best receivers in the game, and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Laporta, not to mention the running game with Gibbs and Montgomery. Um, and then for me, I think Jordan Love is going to be the talk of the league this year. So for me, I see them also projecting behind the Packers, who, with Christian Watson and now Josh Jacobs, I think will be a very potent offense too. And the thing that helps them more is that they have a quarterback. So while I think the offense of the Vikings as a whole is better than the Packers, the quarterback position, Jordan Love is outstanding. We don't know yet for the Vikings. But for me, the Bears offense is not as good as people think it's going to be. So I'm going to take the Vikings over the Bears.
Yes, I would agree with the ranking. I don't know if I'd agree with the placements. I think I would put the Bears second, and I think I'd put the Packers last. Not to say that the Packers have a bad offense by any means, but it really is a three-way tie there between those three offenses. They could be so different. But we'll touch upon the other teams' offenses at the points that we talk
But I
about.
mean, just going to the rankings, for me, it's just a ranking of quarterback at this point because the best quarterback in the division is Jared Goff, and the second best quarterback in the division is Jordan Love. And then you have two rookies, so we don't know what we're going to see. So at that point, I'm going to look to supporting cast, and the Vikings have a better one than the Bears. So I think that looking at offensive production, I would much rather have Jordan Love at the helm than Caleb Williams.
Yeah, at this point, I would agree with that. I think Caleb Williams this year very much could show otherwise, but I would say for Minnesota, just to tie them back into it, The reason that I think they sit up there with these teams, and I know the quarterback situation for Minnesota is much more questionable than it is anywhere else in the division. The reason I think that they can be so good comparatively to these teams and not, like they could be in that conversation is because not only do they have the best skill position player in the league, they also have an offensive line that has shown they could play football with quarterbacks that are not that good. Like Josh Dobbs, he succeeded a little bit last year with an offensive
Yeah.
line that was capable of keeping him safe. But Josh Dobbs was always throwing himself into pressure. JJ McCarthy or Sam Darnold or whoever it's going to be is just going to be able to play at a higher level than what they had last year and stay safe and be able to hit their targets in a more reasonable manner. But the reason I think Minnesota, and I said this, I don't know if I said this in a podcast, I said every team in this division can win 10 games or more.
Oh
The
yeah.
reason I see Minnesota in there is because of what they've done with this defense. Do you want to just touch upon what you see with this defense right now?
I don't. I'm gonna be honest. I don't see a lot.
You don't see it?
Like, look, I don't see the vision. I think the defense is gonna let them down this year. I
Really?
think JJ is gonna be the quarterback who steps in, and I think JJ is gonna have a really good season. I'm gonna be so honest. I do. Um, I don't like the defense at all.
Really?
Um, they have pieces, uh, not many and not very good ones in my mind. I don't think it's there. I think they're going to be the same team that they were a couple years ago where they were in so many close games at 35-35, and that's just not a sustainable way to play football.
But they made so many great moves this offseason. In the draft, they got one of the best defensive players on the board, if not the best one, in Dallas Turner. They brought in
Love Dallas Turner, really.
they brought
I
in
do.
Jonathan Grenard as one of their outside linebackers for this season, who was phenomenal last year in Houston. Andrew Van Ginkel, who's played a couple of really good seasons in Miami, as another outside linebacker. Then you look at the interior, it's a little bit weak with Harrison Phillips and Jerry Tillery, just some guys that have been in the league for a bit. They're not supposed to be very, very good. But one of the defensive rookie of the year candidates in Ivan Pace, along with Camus Grugier Hill, who was one of the most important players in the Houston defense last year, along with Blake Cashman, who was also very important in Houston's defense last year. Some really important pieces from there that are filling up to make a linebacking core. The secondary is questionable, but I do think that we're going to see a jump in production from, or in just level from a Caleb Evans and Byron Murphy, who is a great pickup from Arizona. So I think there's a lot to look at. But the thing that I think is so good about this defense is how blitz oriented they are and how entrenched they are in the Brian Flores amoeba system, where you're going to see a lot of just crazy pressure schemes and crazy pressure packages that you'll never see from other teams. And they did it so well last year.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I do think that they brought in some very good pieces, but to me, that's all they are. They're pieces to when you have an almost complete defense, you're plugging the pieces that are empty. You're plugging those holes. I think they brought in a bunch of players to just plug holes, and their defense needed a total rebuild. Their defense was nothing last year and the year before. They needed to absolutely bring in a star, and they don't. Look, I think Dallas Turner could be that star in a few years, but I think most defenses that you look at have a few crucial players there. And while they have some good players on this defense, I think these are all players that, when surrounded by great players, look a lot better. And when surrounded by players that are the same level as they are, I'm not sure how they're going to perform. So that's why I think the Vikings defense for me is not going to be great, but this is a very boomer bust defense. This is just, look, they could all mesh really well together and it could be a very scary defense.
So,
Or they could all be, a lot of the guys that you mentioned have had really good seasons in the NFL, and this could just not repeat, and they could totally collapse and not be good.
so
I just don't know.
I just think that the way that they were built last year, they had a successful ish season given the talent level on the roster. Now they've just completely upped the level. I mean, they didn't have anyone on the. I mean, Danielle Hunter was very good. But after that, this defense was a bunch of rookies and people who were journeyman players. Now we've got some established players. Ivan Pace came in. He was a third round rookie last year and he came in and was one of the best linebackers in the league immediately. That's what a Brian Flores defense is surrounded with They have players that step in and they just do the job because Flores makes it a really easy job for players. When we've seen it when he left Pittsburgh, Devin Bush turned into a Husker of himself. When he left Miami, Jerome Baker turned into a Husker of himself. So we have a lot of players that maybe in name value don't look that great, but when you place them in this this system where yes, you are reliant on the corners to be very good, and I don't have the utmost faith in Byron Murphy, Shaq Griffin, Andrew Booth, Caleb Evans, whoever it is. It's very beneficial for the front four, but then also the linebacking core. I think we're going to see a lot of, we'll definitely see a lot of blitzing, but we're going to see a lot of movement in the way the scheme looks over the course of the season, dependent on matchups. That's what Flores does a lot. So I think that I just like the way the defense is shaped up.
I don't hate it, and I see what you're going for. It just feels like it's such a like a maybe this, if that.
No,
And
I hear that. I hear that. And
correct me
with
if I'm wrong, but we saw a drop off from Harrison Smith last year.
yeah, definitely.
And look, Cameron Bynum was really good. I like Cameron Bynum. I think he's a good player. If it is true that Brian Flores is some defensive guru who's going to come in and cover zero, cover zero, cover zero, let's get to the quarterback. Firstly, I don't think they have the pass rushing pieces to get to the quarterback consistently enough. And second of all, they don't have the secondary pieces to give their pass rushers time to get to the quarterback. And playing in a division where they're going to need to win, I mean, every single game possible in the clutch moments, I don't know that this defense can step up in big moments and make plays.
Yeah.
Because it's all about, at the end of the day, there are going to be big plays that are needed to be made. And who on that defense is going to make the big play? I just
So
don't know.
the guy I keep pointing out, and I misspoke, he was actually an undrafted rookie last year, is Ivan Pace, who was one of the best linebackers in the league last year. But another guy that really stepped up in key moments over the course of the last couple seasons is Jonathan Grenard, who they brought in from the Texans, and who I think is going to fill the Danielle Hunter sized hole in a way that I think is more beneficial to a faster blitzing defense than Danielle Hunter even was. So I think there are in the secondary, it's gonna be tough. I will say the secondary is gonna have some struggles this year, but I like Andrew Van Ginkel. I really like Dallas Turner, and the run stopping is gonna be difficult. I agree with that because the interior is a bunch of journeymen still. They need to fill that. But overall, I think this defense is going to be a top half unit, and that's all they need to be a very competitive team because you have a Justin Jefferson and you have a TJ Hawkinson on the offense.
I don't know. We'll have to see because I don't think they can just be an average defensive unit to make this team good. Because again, we're looking at, I mean, the key for the Vikings is going to be the first 5 weeks of the season. Um, whether it's JJ or whether it's Darnold, those first 5 weeks are crucial. They are playing against arguably five teams that are better than them. Arguably, I probably would say the Giants are not projected to be better, and the Jets are probably not projected to be better. Um, but it's five teams that are either at their level or better. And I think that those 5 weeks are going to be so crucial because the defense can't just be average in those 5 weeks because JJ is either just getting his first snaps of an NFL career or you're relying on Sam Darnold, neither of which are ideal scenarios for the offense, which odds are will not be putting up so many points in the beginning of the season. The defense needs to be excellent at the beginning of the season. And if that happens, that's great for them and they could go on to win a lot of games next year. But I think, they need to come out of it with, no less than 2 wins in order to stay competitive in that division because their schedule doesn't get easier from there. Their quarterback just gets more experience. They play the Lions, they're at the Rams, they have the Colts, Jaguars, Titans, Bears, Cardinals, Falcons, Bears, Seahawks, Packers. There are still tough games in there and they can't come out of this with 4 losses because they're going to lose 4 or 5 more games over the rest of the season. So I think this defense needs to be at least for the beginning of the year while JJ is getting used to things or Darnold is the quarterback. It needs to be a top 10 defense in the league, and I don't see it.
So I don't think that that's exactly right. I don't I know what you're going for, But I think with the way that the offense can function, they can lean on Aaron Jones and be a run heavy offense if JJ isn't adjusting right. And I still think they can compete with those teams offensively. The defense is going to need to be a top half unit. That's non negotiable. But as far as top 10 goes, and I know it's just a numbers game almost, but I think this defense is going to be able to at least trouble teams every game because that's what just bringing cover zero does. And they have the personnel to do that. So I don't see the problem with going into San Francisco. And San Francisco is an impossible offense to figure out. But if you're going to send the house, which is what Baltimore did to them earlier last season, and the Chiefs started doing it at the end of the Super Bowl, that was the way that you beat San Francisco. And that's the way Minnesota beat San Francisco last year. So you're going to go to Houston. You're going to confuse CJ Stroud. The Jets didn't do that when they played them, but but Baltimore did that last season. So blitzing seems to be the method when you're playing against these high power offenses. So in a way, I do think it works out for them in the way that their scheme works. But again, every matchup is going to be hard. Bar the Cardinals and I guess the Seahawks. But I mean, every
Even then, the
game,
Seahawks are a competent team.
yeah,
Not,
yeah, every team in
it's
the
going to be
schedule
interesting.
is
And
going
the
to be hard.
Cardinals could be a very competent team this year too, with Kyler Murray coming back. We don't know what we're going to see. So who
But
knows?
let's just run through it. So we've gone over what we like and what we don't like. Let's run through the schedule. So I'm going to say they win against the Giants in week 1.
I mean, I'm gonna give them a loss just because that's my Giants and I have to
I'm going to say 1-1
on
after
at MetLife or no, yeah, at MetLife. So
yeah, 1-1 after San Francisco.
yeah, it's another loss to San Fran.
I'm going to say 1-2 Texans.
It's another loss to the Texans.
I'll 1-3 against the Packers.
At Green Bay is a
Yep.
loss.
I'll give them a win against the Jets in I don't know if it's London or Germany, but it's in Europe.
It's Tottenham. It's
Okay.
London.
Then they play the Lions at home. It's a tough one, but you know what? I'm going to give them a win. I'm going to say it's going to be 3-4.
I'm gonna say another loss. That's 1-5.
In SoFi, I give them a loss. That's 3-5.
I'll give them a win against the Rams. I don't like the Rams this year so much, but we'll see. 2-5.
Ho- Home against I have 3-5. You have 2-5.
You have three and I have 2-5. There have been seven. Wait, yeah, 7 games because they had a bye week.
Let me run through it because their bye week came after the Jets, and then we said Vikings and Rams.
Yeah, I'm at 2-5.
1 sec. You had Giants. You had wait 0-1, 0-2, 0-3, 0-4, 1-4, 1-5,
1-5, 2-5.
2-5. Okay, so I had 1-0, 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 2-3, 3-3, 3-4. Okay, so I have 3-4. Then 4-4 after the Colts,
Yep, with you. 3-5.
and then I'm gonna give the Jags this one.
Me
It's
too.
4-5.
Yep, 3-6.
Then I'll give them a win over the Titans. That's 4-7. That's 5-5.
Yep, 4-6 for me.
I'll give them a win in Chicago. That's 6-5.
I'm not gonna let them win in Chicago, but I don't think they win away divisional
Yeah.
matchups this year.
So I'll say
4-7.
so we go to 6-6, or yeah, 6-5 for me. 7-5 after the Cardinals at home.
I got them at 5-7.
Then I'll give the Falcons the win over them. Kirk comes back to Minnesota and wins, so that's going to be a 7-6.
I like in Minnesota for them to win. 6-7.
I'll give them another win against the Bears. That's going to be 8-6.
I'll let them win that one. 7-7.
Then 9-6 against the Seahawks.
Ooh, in Seattle, I'm gonna say a loss. 7-8.
Okay, then I'm gonna go 9-7. Green Bay sweep them,
Agreed. And then I think they also lose to the
and yeah,
Lions.
9-8. I'll give them 9-8 against the Lions.
You got them at 7-10.
Yeah, it's just the margin of error is very tight in this division,
Look, it's all
and
gonna pivot around JJ McCarthy. We know it. It's just gonna happen.
yeah, but we appreciate you guys coming in and watching. We are the Back Pocket Podcast. We're going to be pumping these out left and right. So I'm really excited to get back with you guys. I'm Dylan Shalom here with Charlie Nidell. This was the Minnesota Vikings Buster Boom series. We'll be back.